What's going on? Welcome, all my friends. I'm so glad you're here. So, I have shared before how dramatically my life has changed because of coaching tools. Today, I want to share two of these with you that just made such a difference in my marriage. And it has enabled me to fall in love with my husband. And I shared that I've told y'all just a snippet of the story, how we had a wonderful wedding, and then immediately from like the time we got into the car to go on our honeymoon, everything just went downhill fast. And it was directly a result of the way that I was thinking and therefore acting and handling myself. And it made things so difficult for me. And then through a whole slew of reasons, a whole bunch of changes in my life, my marriage just got off to a rocky start, and I've shared those already. But what I wanted to talk to you today are two of the tools that really helped me shift everything. So I wanted out of my marriage, and I did pretty much from the start. And I was thinking so many negative thoughts like, it's not fair. At least everyone else gets a couple of honeymoon years before before they sink into the depressive reality of their marriages. Like, at least everyone else gets a good time before they just wish they weren't married anymore. And I was like, where's my chance? It just wasn't there. I would also think thoughts like, I wonder what it's like to be in love with your husband. And I've said it before, and it still is true. My husband was the same guy when I got married to him, the same guy that I fell in love with when we were dating. But just because of how my brain was thinking about things, it threw me into this funk that I thought I was doomed and stuck and trapped in. And I thought, I have trapped myself in a marriage for life. This is awful. And there were so many things that were wrong, but it was just my thinking about marriage and the way I was intentionally thinking about, not intentionally, it was just, I was just thinking that way about him. And I was like, well, it must be true because I don't love him anymore. So, I was so frustrated. I was so overwhelmed. I just wanted out. I wanted the escape hatch just to pull it so I could get out of here because I didn't like it. And there was so much disappointment, and all of it was stuff that I was creating in my life. Jeremy was so kind and so patient, and he, like I said, he was the same person I fell in love with. It was just I didn't know who I was. And I had so many boundary issues that I didn't realize where I ended and he began, and I thought he was responsible for making me happy. And I was trying to put on him all types of obligations as my husband to take care of me, things that God gave me the ability and the responsibility to do and take care of. But I was just as fast as I could trying to shove it off on him. And when he inevitably couldn't make me happy because it's impossible, because he can't think my thoughts for me, right? When it was inevitable that he just couldn't make me happy, I used that as proof that we weren't meant for each other. We weren't supposed to be together. I was trapped forever now, and I was just going to look for ways to get out because I was like a trapped animal. Yeah, it was a hot mess, y'all. So when I discovered what my mentor calls the model. She created this thing called the model, and it's very similar to behavioral cognitive psychology, and there's so many other people that have discovered this, but it's beautiful how our circumstances are neutral. They literally are neither good nor bad, and it's when we have thoughts about our circumstance that we make a judgment whether it's good or bad. And because of our thoughts, those thoughts create feelings in our body. You see, I always thought it was something external creating my feelings, like just the circumstances that were happening, and therefore I was upset. The circumstances of a party and I would be excited just because it's a party. Or if I'm at a party and I'm thinking lonely thoughts, then I would feel like the party was making me lonely. And then, so with my marriage, I was just thinking my husband can't meet my needs and I've married the wrong person. And so I thought this circumstance of just being married was the thing responsible for all of my depression, my sadness, and me screwing up my life, having made the decision to marry him. And it was just transformative once I realized my thoughts create my feelings. And some of y'all might be thinking, well, duh. But for me, this was monumental. And it allowed me to take responsibility for my feelings now and no longer just be at the whim of my feelings, because I knew how to create my feelings. So circumstances being neutral, that's kind of the top of the model. Then we have a thought about the circumstance, which creates a feeling within us. When that feeling drives an action, and we take all actions out of the feelings that we have. And then the result is underneath that action. So our actions give us results in our life. And then knowing that whole structure for things, it was like the first foundational element for me that I thought, okay, I'm thinking negative thoughts about Jeremy, but supposedly my circumstance is neutral. And this really didn't hit home for me until I learned the second principle. It's not just a coaching principle, it's a life principle, but it's called confirmation bias. And this is when any new information we're given, we filter through our own. Let's see, I've got a definition here, and I want to give you a really slick definition. The tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. So if you ever witness a debate and people are just debating their sides, they're going at it, neither one of them are going to be convinced of the other pretty much ever, because they are each only, like, the new information they get is just going to prove what they're saying. It's not going to prove what the other person's saying. And so how this applied to me was, if I thought a negative thought about Jeremy, any new information that would come at me, I would find the evidence to prove that negative thought. And it was like a huge thing. It's like, okay, my brain is literally going to work to prove all of the negative stuff just because I had one original negative thought that I believed. Oh my goodness. I actually saw this in practice in my life before with Jeremy. I will use the person's name. I'll just say their name was Taylor, and that way you won't know if it's a man or a woman. But I had such strong criticisms of Taylor. I would rip them apart in my mind. And I would also think, why am I having such a hard time with them? They are, like, other people love them, but I can't stand them. What is the deal? And so my brain would always find all of the reasons. And if the reason wasn't about them, it was about me. It was because you're a critical person, because you just can't be happy, because you can't be satisfied. Because I was literally asking a terrible question. Why can't I like them? It seems like an innocent question. It seems like a helpful question, but it wasn't a very productive question, because the results were always negative. It was always confirming the negativity that I had in my own head. And so once I realized I was unconsciously just being negative because of this confirmation bias, I thought, okay, what if I just loved Taylor? Could I just love Taylor? And so I thought about it, so imagine with me all, like, one day that it's like well into the afternoon and I am beating myself up by how much of a hard time I'm having with loving Taylor. And I can't stand Taylor, and it's on my brain, and it's burning a hole, it feels like, inside my head. And I'm just like, oh, I can't stand Taylor, like, all day long, right? And then I learned this principle, confirmation bias, and I've already learned the model knowing that my thoughts create my feelings, right? And so it's well into the afternoon, stressful day. And I thought, what if I just love Taylor? What if I just decided I love Taylor? And so I sat with it for a second. It's like, okay, I love Taylor. I love Taylor. And I kept saying it until it was like 20 seconds. Imagine, just 20 seconds go by. And all of a sudden, I was like, what would it be like if I did love Taylor? Boom. That's when my brain went to work. And all of a sudden, I started having tears well up in my eyes from the happy circumstances that I was imagining from interacting with Taylor. And it gives me chills now thinking about it, because like my whole body was affected. It literally, just that one shift in how I viewed them changed everything. And it was like a physical change in my body. I was shocked, absolutely shocked. And at that point, I had to sit down, because I was like, what just happened here? Is it really like this? And so when I realized I can think positive thoughts about something and intentionally choose to think different things, and my brain will go to work to prove it right, oh my gosh, it felt so much better. It felt like I was free and liberated, and I wasn't carrying around this huge weight and the burden on my shoulders like I have to just hold this ugly, awful thing. It was so freeing. And that's when I decided, if it's like this with Taylor, I'm going to do this with Jeremy. And because I hadn't really thought that I had been thinking negative thoughts and proving them right with him either. And it's so fascinating, just when I started doing that, the same exact thing happened with him. I was able to start thinking about all of the reasons I loved him. And I thought, okay, well, what were the thoughts that I thought about him while we were dating? And then I started having these beautiful flood of memories and thoughts that I used to think about him. And I was like, okay, well, then I just need to think those thoughts. And maybe you've heard it too, probably so, like the complaint, oh, he doesn't do these things for me anymore. Like, oh, he used to do these things when we were dating, and now I can't. It was easy for me to love him when we were dating, because he would take me out, he would buy me flowers, he would buy me chocolates, he would do this for me and tell me that, and all the sweet little things. And I was like, but he doesn't have to do any of those things. I could just literally think all the same thoughts that I had about him and still have the same experience. And you might say, nay, it's the circumstance that makes us love. Well, we're welcome to believe that. And I want to tell you, I'm not trying to stop you and tell you have to drink the Kool-Aid that I'm serving at the moment. You're welcome to think that. But if it makes you a prisoner of your situation, then is it really working for you? Is it benefiting you to think that you're helpless and you can't change anything? And that was the question I had to ask myself. Once after I had all of these major monumental shifts going on in my head, something would sneak up and I would try to give responsibility to Jeremy for my feelings. And it was like, but is this working for me? Is this really serving me? And some of you might be saying, well, my husband has changed so much. And some people might even say, I'm not attracted to him anymore. And I want to submit to you and offer to you that attraction is something we create with our mind, and it's not a circumstance. Now, it might have triggered you just then. Okay, so he's gained weight. All right, we can still choose to think about our spouse in whatever way we want and hold them beautiful in the way that we think about them. And I get that there might be some resistance to this, but let's just say there's, just some gorgeous guy just sitting in a cafe, and he's got everything together, right? Or some beautiful woman, guys, just whatever. Now imagine that you discover their picture in the news because they're a mass murderer. Are you going to still have the same attraction to them that you had before? Probably not. They're a murderer. And okay, attraction truly is something we create with our mind. So if we want to think about our spouse in ways that just like ignite us and make us like get the butterflies all back in our stomach, we can do that. And it's really fun. And that's why I said I fell in love with my husband, because I fell in love with him as my boyfriend. And then when we got married, I just completely checked out. And I was a different person. And I didn't understand what was going on. But now I do. And I'm so glad that I went through that so I could see exactly the torment that I put myself through all those years. So if you are struggling in the way that you think about your spouse, think about these two tools. The model, I've shared it before in my earliest video. It's the very first one. Go back and watch that, and you'll see your circumstances are neutral. They're neither good nor bad. They just are. They're facts. They're the bare bones facts. Then we have a thought about our circumstance, and that creates a feeling within us, and that feeling creates an action that we take, and that result comes from the action. That was like, it's so powerful. And then confirmation bias. And if we're unconsciously choosing to be negative, and it's always a choice, we just don't know it. That's why I say it's an unconscious choice. If we're choosing to be negative, we're going to think negative thoughts about our spouse. That's the only way it can be. That's the way our minds were designed. You put a bad question in, or a low quality question, it's going to give you a low quality answer. If you put a low quality thought in, it's going to give you a low quality experience in your body. And taking charge of that has given me my life back. Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Think about it. As we think, we are. And also Proverbs 4:23 says, carefully guard your thoughts because they are the source of life. King James says, guard your heart. Everything flows from that. If we guard our thoughts, we pay attention to them, we manage our mind. We don't let our mind just be a toddler with a knife running around and wreaking havoc. Take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. From 2 Corinthians 10:5. Take every thought captive, make it obedient to Christ. Is it true? And is it serving you? And sometimes we might say it is true, but it's not serving us. Then I would submit it might not be true. The weapons that we use have the power to demolish strongholds. From 2 Corinthians 10:4. The previous one was 2 Corinthians 10:5. But demolishing strongholds. The word strongholds there in the Greek that Paul uses means a prison of lies. We have the power to demolish prisons of lies, and that's all in our mind. We're given that ability through Christ. Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformed. I have been transformed by the renewing of my mind. Learning how to do that. Romans 8:6, a mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. There's far too much depression in the church. Not just in the church, but among Christians and people that love God, and just there's far too much depression. I lived it. But a mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. So I just think this work is the most powerful thing ever. It affects every area of our life, every avenue. And I love sharing this story about falling in love with Jeremy because I do know now what it's like to be in love with my husband. And I do get butterflies when I think about him, and I'm like, I just love him so much, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to intentionally work on my mind and my thoughts and do this. So there's so much here. Also, I just want to slip this in, which might trigger some of you, and if it does, then let the conversation begin. But if you are thinking like I was before, that you just want a divorce and you want to get out because then you can be happy. If you're being abused, then please see someone, see a professional. Like, please reach out for help. But if there's not abuse involved and you're just like, I just want to get out, I'm not happy anymore, I want to urge you to get happy before you leave him. and then decide from a clean space. Because if you choose to get out before you've learned that it's not him that's making you unhappy, you'll never learn the skill to change and to grow and to manage your mind. You'll always think it's other people that's responsible for your unhappiness. And it's very empowering knowing that you create your happiness. So if you really want to dive into any of this work, so many of you have reached out to me, and I am just so honored to work with you. And many more have reached out saying, like, I'm going to do this, and I know it's fine. I'm excited, and when we do work together, it's going to be amazing. But just know that I love y'all, and I want to give you the skills to radically change your life, to show you what's available to you. And changing your identity from someone who is one way into the person you want to be is beautiful work. And it's tough, but it's beautiful work. So also, oh my goodness, y'all, I almost forgot. Thank goodness for notes. Tomorrow is my birthday. I will be 34 tomorrow. I'm super excited. And I'm going to do a little giveaway because why not? So one of the books that has been transformative for me is Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. They're both notable psychologists. And I'm giving away 5 copies to people who do the following things. You comment on the video below. You subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is just Megan Bunner, Meagan Bunner, Bunner. And you like my Facebook business page. And I'm kind of getting started with this stuff. I know it's a little bare bones right now, but we're starting somewhere. So if you comment below on this video, just say something. And like you could even say, hey, I subscribed to your YouTube channel and I liked your Facebook post. And then you're going to be loaded in the group of people who I'll select. So it will be at random, and I will be shipping those out. And it's such a powerful book. Even if y'all don't win it, you need it. It's like life-changing. But anyway, all right, y'all just let me know how I can serve you, and I will see y'all again. I don't know when, but it'll be soon. Well, tomorrow, my birthday? Maybe I'll do something. We'll see. All right. Love y'all. Bye.